Sup nerds, I'm Tom with Neverboard Gaming, and I'm going to show you how to play Son of a... We'll begin by showing you guys how to set up the game. That's what you got to do, right? Now we've got a couple of different decks here. I'll go ahead and show you first off the orders here. You're not going to shuffle this deck. What you're going to do is you're going to take 3 weak secures, 3 weak sabotages, 1 strong secure, and 1 strong sabotage. You can tell the difference by the fact that their symbols are a lot bigger in the bottom right hand corner as opposed to these. And you're going to give that to every single player. So it's not randomized, that's what every player gets. Next, you're going to take the scheme deck. You will shuffle this, and you'll deal 2 cards, 2 schemes, to every player. Next, you can take this opportunity deck, shuffle it up, and put it in the general play area. Now, I also have here the Mafioso deck. So this is kind of like your secret identity. What we're going to do with this is we're going to shuffle it up and deal out a number of cards equal to the number of players plus 1. So for here, I just dealt out for an imaginary 3-player game. 3 plus 1, 4. Math. Now I'm going to deal them face up like this so that I can go for the reference cards and pull out the mini ones that match the ones that I just pulled out. We'll take these, shuffle them up, deal 1 out to each player, and then the remaining one will get burned face down, never to be looked at. These will remain in the center of the table so everybody knows at least which secret identities are being played with this game. And last but not least here, we have the Soldati tokens. I zoomed in so you could check and see that they actually have 2 different sides. They have a value and an ability side. What you're going to do is you're going to want to make sure you take all of them, put them in some kind of opaque bag, shuffle them up, give the bag a good shake. Then you're going to want to draw and deal 3 random tokens to each player. And now when you hand them to the player, they get to decide which side they're going to have them on. They're probably going to do a mixture of some abilities and some numbers, but hey, they could do all numbers if they wanted to, or they could do all abilities. It's completely up to them. But wait, there's more. Every player also gets 6 dice in their color and 8 tokens in their color. Now, the game actually comes with 9 dice per color, but you can actually earn those later on in the game, so they'll be set aside for right now. There are also these double-sided reference cards that you can hand out to every player, just in case they need to reference something. You're also going to want to set up 3 Soldati tokens off to the side of the main play area. This will be known as the lineup. These are sort of available for purchase during the game. We are almost done with setup. Last thing I'm going to want you to do is to take the extort, the recruit, the bribe, and the organized cards, put them in the center play area, and kind of spread them out, give them a lot of room. Now we can start talking about the phases of the game. The very first phase is called the preparation phase. That's where we're going to take this opportunity deck. We'll flip up the top card, and this will tell us where we're going to place our opportunity boards. Now, I've got the opportunity boards here, and you see how they look a little bit different? This one has more of a white edge, and this one has kind of a blue edge. So this card is going to tell us where we're going to place these ones with the white edge. So it says we're going to put 1 on bribe. I'm going to kind of put it here up along this edge. We're going to put 1 on recruit, which is right here, and then we're going to put 2 on organize over here. And now these blue ones right here, these actually get handed out to each player. Remember when I said we were done with setup? I lied. Next, all players simultaneously roll their 6 dice. Ooh, thanks for helping, Aaron. You then count up the total, and whoever has the lowest total gets to decide who goes first. First player then starts by playing their opportunity board, well, wherever they want. That's up to them. So extort hasn't been used yet, so let's say they put theirs there. Now it should be noted that the maximum number that can be placed next to them, see how I'm just placing them by the edges here, it's actually 8 technically, because they can go in these corners like this. Now it's very unlikely that something like that will happen, because usually you want to spread out in the game, but it's definitely possible. Players in turn order will also receive some bonuses. The first player will get to draw an extra scheme card. Last player actually gets no bonus, but every player between first and last player will get to pick a syndicate and look secretly at all the orders that are on that syndicate. And I know what you're thinking, Tom, we don't know what syndicates are yet. We don't know what these orders are. You're going out of order. Calm down, I'll get to it. Lastly, if you have any lucre from previous rounds, this is where you get to collect your lucre bonuses, where for every lucre that you have, you get to draw an extra scheme, roll an extra die, or swap a soldati with another player. Now obviously we're still talking about the first round of the game, so you don't have any lucre yet, but if you ever collect any later on, this is where you get the bonuses for them. And now it's time to scheme. Phase 2 is the scheme phase, where starting with the first player, you get to play however many schemes you want to onto these boards. Now, there can only be one scheme per board, and the schemes actually have a little arrow on them, and they're pointing on the board to your player color. So if you're red and you play this here, you're going to want this to point at the red, just to kind of remind you that this is the scheme that you played. The next phase is the planning phase. This is where most of the action of the game takes place. This is where we take our die and we place them on the plan boards for the actions we want to win. Now, the player with the highest total of their color die on that particular board will win that action. Also, for everyone that's empty, that doesn't have any die on it, the first player will win that action. When playing your dice, there's really only 2 rules to follow. The first rule is that you have to have equal or less dice than the player sitting to your right, and you have to play at least 1 die. So if I start with 6 and the player to my right, Aaron over here, has 6 die, and I play 1, I now have less die than Aaron does. If I play 3, I have less die than Aaron does. But then when it comes around to the green player's turn, they have to play until they have equal or less than the player to the right, which is me, the purple player. So the green player has to play at least 3 die. Now, if the green player wanted to play 4 die, totally could. But then when it comes over to Aaron right here, he needs to play 4 die. Keep doing this until all dice are placed. And now the fun begins. We're now in the ability phase. The first part of that phase is we're going to start by flipping the schemes up. And now what the schemes do is they basically modify the win condition for this board. Normally, the win condition is the player with the highest total value of dice in their color would win it. So this purple 5 here is more than the red 4, so they would win. However, what this scheme now says is the lowest value here wins. So, red would win over the 5. After we've flipped up and resolved all of the schemes, players can then resolve their soldati abilities, starting with the first player. Now, soldati abilities, the way that the combinations work can be a little bit wacky, so we'll go ahead and zoom in to show you exactly how those work. How soldati abilities work is they kind of work in conjunction with one another. You need to have both an ability side and a value side. This is probably the easiest example. I can occupy any die as long as it is showing a 4. Now, if we were to add a second one here, if we were to add this switch, so I could switch a 4 or I can occupy a 4. I can't do both. I'm kind of limited by the value side and not by the ability side. Let's say if I were to add this here and then take this away. Well, I can occupy a 4 and I can occupy any dice. I'm again really only limited by the value side, not by the ability side. And then if I had this here, I could switch a 4 and anything I want, or I could occupy a 4 and anything I want. The Soldado abilities are explained in this reference card, but I'll run through them real quickly. Exchange literally just swaps the position of 2 die. Flip will pick up a die and flip it to the opposite side. So I can bring this 4 to a 3, I could bring a 2 to a 5, and I could bring a 6 to a 1. Move is where you pick up a die and just move it anywhere you want. Occupy is like move, but a little bit differently. You have to move the die to another location that doesn't have a die with the same pip. So this is a 2. I can move this 2 over to here, well, because there's no other 2 there. Remove is where you pick up a die and, well, just remove it from the game. Chuck it, get it out of here. Reroll, well, you grab a die and you re-roll it. Oh, that was a great roll. Rotate is where you pick a die and change it to whatever side you want. I can grab this 5 and make that a 1. Switch is a lot like exchange, but the die have to be the same. So I could swap this 3 with this 3 right here. It's important to note that any of these abilities can be done to a die of any color. I don't have to only re-roll my own die or an opponent's die. I can do whichever die I want. And now that we've resolved all of our schemes and we've messed with each other's die using our Soldado abilities, let's actually win some of these actions. Let's start off by looking at Extort. It's really obvious that red player has won this board over here, so the red player will then receive 1 Lucre token. And since we're using a prototype right here, we're just using die to represent Lucre, but it should be noted that they will be tokens in the real game. Let's take a look at this board right here. This board's a tie. We've got a red 5 and a green 5. And the way that ties are broken is actually by turn order, meaning the player who is higher up in the order of play will win the tie, meaning the first player is always going to win ties, and the last player is pretty much always going to lose ties. Since the red player is the last player in our imaginary game here, the green player will actually win the other Lucre token. When we look at bribe, purple has won this board, so purple player will get 1 bribery token. Oh wait, that's me. When a player wins this recruit board here, they'll be able to select one of the available Soldati tokens from the lineup. And lastly, if you win one of the boards for Organize, you get to control a syndicate. So you get to take one of the syndicates at random. It doesn't really matter. They all kind of work the same way. Let's say I take this counterfeit money syndicate because I won this board. Once you take this, you have to immediately then ask players if they want to assist you. Let's say I ask the green player to assist me. If they decline, nothing happens. But if they agree, they get to put one of their assist tokens in their color on my syndicate. Let's also say that I don't invite the red player to come assist me. The red player then has a choice. They could sit there and do nothing and be cool with that, or they could forcibly give me 1 lucre or 1 bribery in order to place their token on here. It's kind of a way of forcing their way to assist my syndicate. And now I have to accept this offer. Last thing we do in the execution phase is we discard all schemes, and then it's off to the command phase. The command phase is when players get to place orders on syndicates or get to use their bribery actions. So I'll talk about placing orders on syndicates first of all. In turn order, players get to place as many face-down order cards as they would like onto syndicates that either they control or that they have their tokens on. So this is mine right here, and the green player's token is on there, and the red player's token is on there. So right now, anybody could put as many orders as they want on there. There are sabotage and secure orders. The relevancy of this is most mafioso cards, the secret identity cards, really all but 3, will score points at the end of the game based on syndicates that are sabotaged or secured to some degree. The ones that I'm showing here are the weak sabotage and secure. There's also a strong secure and a strong sabotage. You can tell by the fact that the picture's a lot bigger, this symbol right here is a lot bigger. The weak version of secure and sabotage count as 1 point towards it being, well, secure and sabotage, and the strong versions count as 100 points towards it being, well, secure or sabotage. And we'll talk about how those score in a little bit. It is very important to note that you can only play these on syndicates that either you control or that you have your tokens on. Now, there is another way to do that, and that's with the bribe action. Let's talk about that. For every bribery token you have, during the command phase, you get to take one of these 3 actions. And just like Lucre, these don't get discarded, it's just kind of like a cap. So if later on in the game I gain another, or I gain another, I don't have to spend this in order to take these actions. I just now have 3 actions that I can take from this available list. Those options are I can take 1 order at random from a syndicate or from another player's hand and add it into my hand. I can give 1 order to any syndicate. This, I do not have to have my token on there, so that's one way of doing it without having your token on there. Or I can exchange 1 order between any 2 syndicates. Really, I'd swap 2 orders between syndicates. And no, I don't have to have my tokens on either of those in order to do that. Once you end the command phase, you then end the round and start a new round with another preparation phase. The entire game consists of 5 rounds of each of the 6 phases. Preparation, scheming, planning, ability, execution, and command. After the 5 rounds, we then go to the end of game, where we start by determining which syndicates are secured or sabotaged based on the orders that are on there. What we'll do is we'll flip up all the orders on every syndicate, and we'll add up the points for secure and sabotage, and whichever value is higher, well, that's what the syndicate is. If sabotage is higher, then this syndicate is sabotaged. If the secure is higher, then this syndicate is secured. Now, actually, if it's a tie goes to secure. Remember that the strong versions are 100 points and the weak versions are 1 point. If the syndicate is sabotaged, you actually remove any assist tokens that are on them, and you flip it over to the sabotage side. After that, everybody reveals their mafioso card and we start getting points. If the informant is being used in your game, however, you want the informant to reveal themselves first. They get points based on if they can correctly guess what everybody else's mafioso card was, so you definitely want this to be revealed first. I'd kind of recommend only using the informant after you've already played a game or two, since it's kind of a meta role, but I'll ultimately leave that decision up to you. After y'all count up your points, whoever has the most points wins, and if there's any ties, that would actually result in a shared victory. And that's Lawless Empire. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments down below. I'll be sure to have Aaron get right on that. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never be bored.